Homie, back up off me. Boy, don't look at me like I'm delicious. What's up, everybody? PR and VR. And so between the knee surgery, getting back to work, working 60-plus hour weeks, just covering other people's vacations, and now getting ready to move, I haven't really been able to drop a video in a while, so I decided to go ahead and jump in with this boxing Underdog on the MetaQuest store. I've seen a lot of other people out there hyping this game up. I'm going to be honest, I'm not so sure I feel the same. Now, when I saw this game, I knew it looked familiar, and that's because it used to be a game called bare knuckle boxing. And it was under the radar for a little while, but then it finally re-emerged as underground boxing. And I'm going to be honest, I wish it would have stayed bare knuckle boxing. And follow my logic here, and here's why. There are plenty of boxing games that already exist on the Quest. What set this game apart from those games was the fact that it was purely about bare knuckle boxing. Now, don't get me wrong, that is still a part of the game. Bare knuckle boxing is still an aspect of the game, but what made this different was this was purely about bare knuckle boxing, and that's something that would have truly set this game apart from the rest. Now, there is a game that I'm going to cover at the end of this video called The Fight, and there is bare knuckle boxing in that game, and that game's also worth its own review. So while it's going to get a brief mention in this review, it is going to get its own review because I think it's worth it. I'm not going to waste my time showcasing the new trailer for Underdog Boxing, as there's a lot of stuff that's mentioned there. I don't know. Part of me felt like it's accurate during gameplay. Part of me felt like not so much. It genuinely felt like some of the punches don't land clean, even if you got clean technique. It feels wild. Some of the hitting, you see this weird colored spray. I assume that's to let you know how much damage you're doing. But even then, there were times that I was throwing hooks to my opponent's face where I felt like I actually had to hit him with my bicep in order to land a good solid hook. Now, I'm not going to be overly harsh on my criticisms because I know that this is still early access. I know that it's still a work in progress. And so there's a lot of bugs and kinks that got to be ironed out before it's a solid game. The damage system, which is one of the biggest delivering points of this game, is solid. Busting the guy's lip is kind of brutal, or hitting them in the eye or busting their nose. All of it really delivers the damage. You know, it really looks gruesome. And it's something you would expect out of a real fight. And graphics-wise, the game's also very nice. It's what you would expect out of a Quest 3 at this point. The game does offer multiplayer. I'm not going to waste my time with it, just like I haven't wasted my time with Thrill of the Fight 2 ever since it came out. The problem with multiplayer in these boxing games is you really can't stop cheating. You can't stop anyone from cheating. And so if you have a player who has solid technique, who maybe even is a legit boxer, and maybe he's just kind of, I don't know, supplementing some of his training with going into VR and just going ahead and working up a sweat, well, they walk away disappointed because you got some kid who's got these gorilla sticks from Gorilla Tag, and he's able to throw incredible haymakers and slap fest his way to victory, while you have a guy who has solid technique, can't do anything. Like, I know I'm getting kind of off topic here, but seriously, if you're a developer and you're watching this, focus on a single player game or campaign first, and then give us multiplayer. I feel like Dragon Fist Kungfu did it right. They made a single player game before they went back and decided to make a multiplayer aspect to it. So earlier in the video, I mentioned that I wish they would have just stayed a bare knuckle boxing game because they would have set it apart. The problem with Underdog is it throws its hat in the ring with games such as Thrill of the Fight or Ultra Boxing or even The Fight, which also deliver pretty solid boxing experiences. Thrill of the Fight being, in my opinion, the gold standard, as it was developed from the ground up for boxing. And while Thrill of the Fight didn't have all the razzle-dazzle, it did have a solid boxing experience. It did force you to think, outthink your opponent. It did force you to work the body in order to open up your opponent. Plus, the game really made you work for it. You know, if you were working the head a lot, it would force you to have to start to work the body in order to open up the head and allow you to be able to take shots at the head. It made you think like a real boxer. Ultra Boxing was another one where it introduced bobbing and weaving, where you really had to look at what your opponent was doing and where he was going in order to know what kind of shot you were going to get hit with. It forced you to learn how to control your space, and getting locked into a pattern could get you knocked out. If he liked to duck and weave a lot, it forced you to throw lower punches to pull him back up, make him open up his body. And I mentioned earlier the game The Fight. So this has a mode on it where you have bare knuckle boxing. And while it doesn't look as nice and it isn't as visually appealing, this is a solo developer who made this game. And in my opinion, it captures a lot. So you got the bare knuckle boxing, there is damage, but in addition to that, there's an actual trainer mode where you really are throwing combinations. You really are working combinations, whether it's on the heavy bag like you're seeing me do right here, or the bob, the body opponent bag like you're seeing me do here. You also have where you're doing the gloves. So to me, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck out of this game. And in addition to it, of course, it being a boxing game, you're going to have your matches. Now, granted, the NPCs look kind of distorted and funky looking, as this guy looks like he's half gorilla with his tiny legs. The damage system is there. The opponent does open up certain areas. He does block. If you tend to aim for the head, he's going to try to protect the head. You work the body and open him up. So in my humble opinion, the one thing that gives Underdog the edge is graphics and damage system. Otherwise, body-wise, I don't really feel like my shots are landing like they do in some of these other games. The fighting, while still felt decent, didn't feel maybe as good as, say, Ultra Boxing. And again, this isn't me throwing shade, because again, I know that this is early access. A lot of this stuff has got to get hammered out. The problem I feel like a lot of these developers with like Thrill of the Fight 2 or Underdogs has done is they've tied their hands having to try to develop a single player campaign, but also develop for the multiplayer. And the multiplayer is going to take so much out of them. You're going to have a development team bogged down with trying to create a damage system and an anti-cheat system, just like Thrill of the Fight 2. And that's exactly why Thrill of the Fight 2 has been out for a while now, but it's gone nowhere. And there is no single player campaign yet, which is why it's just been sitting and collecting dust. Me personally, when I jump into a boxing game, I jump into a boxing game that I can pick up, play, and put down. Not for a ranking system, not to compete with other players. That's fun, that can be cool, but again, there's always going to be a way to cheat the system, which unfortunately means you're going to have a lot more players who are going to shelf the game rather than actually sit back and play and enjoy the game. You do currently have like 4 to 6 fighters that you can compete against offline. But even the way the game starts out telling a story, but there isn't a single player campaign per se for this game yet. And I know it's on the way, but it's still one of those deals where you're releasing a game with the idea of a multiplayer over a game with a single player campaign. I just think it's a bad idea. And I really hope that they get a single player campaign out for this game. I'd love to come back and give this game a second look and say, hey, yeah, man, this game's pretty awesome. I love the campaign mode, etc. Now, currently, Underdogs is going for $20 US. Is the game worth it? So here's the deal. You're going to have to decide that one for yourself. Is it worth it for me? No. I'm going to just be perfectly honest. It's not. For all the cool things that this game has, it's just, again, another Thrill of the Fight 2. It's another boxer that's forcing me more or less to play multiplayer. I can beat these 4 to 6 guys that are available offline, but what's after that? All training offers is just a guy that I can beat up on and make bleed. Whereas, say, a game like The Fight will actually force me to work combinations. And I didn't even cover all of the different training things that they have available in the amount of time. Like I said, that's a game that deserves its own review. Will this game eventually be worth the $20 price tag? I think so. And that's exactly why I'm hanging on to it. And will this game see regular play? That is yet to be determined. It definitely offers more boxers than, say, Ultra Boxing, which, again, that's another game and maybe deserves its own review, but I don't even think that game is worth the price tag that it's asking for. Ultra Boxing, that is. This is going to about wrap up this review, guys. There'll be links in the description section for each of the games mentioned. If there's discount codes available, you know the deal. I'll leave it there. Also, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Leave your own opinions in the comments section what you guys think. Is the game worth it? Is it not worth it? Why do you think it's worth it? Why do you not think it's worth it? With that, guys, peace out.